This week on the Sprite project, I remember what I'm doing. The engine goes in, the wheels go on, and we're almost ready for our first ride.
Oh yeah, I remember where I was.
Have you ever had one of those weekends that seems like it lasted for 2 months? Well, I just got back from one of those. Wow, it's so nice to be back in the shop. I need to figure out what I'm doing next. There's a saying, men plan and the gods laugh. Well, they're laughing right now. I need to adjust my plans to whatever's been going on in the world and figure out what I want to do. I have a Sprite in 1,000 pieces. I have a Big Healy Season 2 ready to go, and I still need to sell Season 1. So my current plan, since I've missed so much time, is to get the Sprite back together so I can remember where everything goes. The other thing, since it's been so long, I'm gonna miss 2 months of what I was hoping to have as drive time. So I'm thinking about just getting it back to running condition, at least all the parts back together, all the parts I have, and park it. And then move on to Season 2, because I need to make some progress on that, because I'm already way behind. So that's my plan. Let me change my clothes into something grubby, and we'll get to work.
So the first thing we're gonna do is take the backing plate off so we can get to this this bit and put on the new oil seal. So now looking down there, you can see what we're talking about. It has these threads cut into it, and when the engine's turning, it's made to go in. So any oil that spills out on here gets pushed back into the engine by these threads. Now this piece that goes on top of it often gets worn around here, and that starts letting the oil out, which is a problem. Here's a new one with instructions and everything. Have a nice aluminum piece that gets screwed onto there. Then we have this big guy that goes in between it, and this is what ends up sealing it around here. So I'm going to read through the instructions, because I haven't done this before. There are other YouTube videos about how to do this. Comes with some gasket joint and stuff and everything. Alright, we're going to try and get this going now. So we have this part, bevel goes on the inside, add some blue sealant to it. It's time for the flywheel. So this is supposed to get this added onto it. There's extra holes. Trying to figure out which ones line up the best. down nice and tight to the face there. So now we're gonna torque them up. I couldn't torque it up without the engine spinning, and I couldn't hold it in place without the engine wanting to move over. So working by myself, I had to get creative. Finally. Now, I have this captive locking plate that I need to hammer the edges over on to keep the bolts from moving. So that goes there. That's going to go on the flywheel side. Up here we have this important tool, important piece of plastic. This in the transmission. There's the main takeoff that is this shape, and if you put the clutch in without this tool, it's going to end up in the wrong place, and when it's tightened down, you can't spin the disc to get it in the right place, so this aligns it. Now before we put the transmission on, there's a couple things we need to do. I have a new throwout bearing to put on. Even though this one's pretty good, I've got a new one. And there's an awful lot of wiggle in this fork, so I'm going to replace a bushing in it. First, let's take it apart. So there's a bushing right in here that we're going to pound out and replace with a new one. New one slides on here. There's much less wiggle. See, it goes all over. Next, we need to put the throwout bearing on. Have these funny clips that go on there, one on each side. It sits down in here. And they just spin around to the back. Next, we can start putting it back in. Bought a new rubber thing for the top. I'm gonna use this trick again. Just try not to drop my transmission. I'm gonna wrap this around in the groove. In the groove, man. And use it to pull it in. Go. And they get to fit, but that looks very good. With all the rust problems I've had with this clutch, I want to make sure that it stays dry inside. So I want to make sure I get the rubbers replaced so it's sealed as tight as it can be. Right, I think it's ready to go back on the engine. I want to test this before we got this in the car. So I've attached this ratchet strap to the clutch fork down here. I have the tightener here. And it just wraps around to a point where I could connect it way over there. I also have it in first gear, I think, and the shaft coming out the back here will not turn, at least by hand. Now we're going to tighten this up. Yeah, I just felt it kick as it disengaged. Now I'm able to turn the transmission by hand in the back. This is a sanity check. You know, I don't want to put it in the car and not have that do what it's supposed to be doing. So I'm happy with that. Now, toss the starter in and then put it back in the car. I didn't film it, but I just replaced this bracket right here on the transmission. It had rubber pieces. It turned out to be a lot more difficult than I thought. It was just lining things up, you know, new rubber may or may not be exactly the same as the old one. But now we're ready to put the engine in the car. I promised myself on the first day back I wouldn't try to do 2 months work all in one day. I think I pushed it a bit. I got the engine back in. It feels so good after such a long wait to make some progress and complete some projects that have just been driving me nuts. Quick tip of the day, if you spent the last 2 months sitting on your couch, don't try to put the engine in all in one day. I'm really sore today. So there's 4 bolts that hold the transmission mount in place. There's 2 that go up in the bottom, really long ones, and there's 2 of these that go in from the side here. This is the best bolt in the whole world. Focus. There you go. Can you see that? See that point on there? That is so awesome. Trying to get things aligned. I think almost every bolt should have that. Once upon a time. Sorry, how good stories start like that. A long time ago, I tore my radiator apart. Remember that? A long time ago. It's time to get it back together. I'd taken off these rails because they were, well, one was very loose. Maybe both of them. And I'm going to reattach them here. And then I'm going to clean it up a bit more and then paint the whole radiator. So, to get started, soldering paste, or flux, some solder, and a torch. Here's an upgrade, something the car's never had. Well, not since I've owned it. I put a battery hold-down bracket in there. Usually, the battery's just dumped in there and left around floppy. It does slide around a bit when you corner really hard, and I tend to corner really hard. So I've been playing with these. It's not necessary, but I ordered new rubbers for the gaskets for everything I could find, and there's a reason for it. The rubber on all this stuff has become very gummy. Oh, come on, let go. and crunchy and not very rubbery. So I'm taking everything off to replace it. I'll clean up stuff as I go along. It was just sticky. So I got the car started, which we knew that worked. I've had it running rather well in the past. Have it jacked up so I can test the clutch, because that's the whole point of all of this. I spent a lot of time bleeding the clutch, the slave cylinder, trying to get some sort of motion out of it. I'm not getting any pressure at all, even with it held down where it should be like pushing the clamp apart. I think the Sprite just doesn't want to drive. I think maybe the master cylinder is having an issue. Yeah, I don't think it's building pressure. I'm trying to remember, and I've sent a text to my dad, whether he rebuilt the master cylinder. I know the brake master cylinder was rebuilt, but I don't know about the clutch. In the meantime, I'm looking up parts and trying to figure out if I have to replace that now.
So I've been told that by holding the slave cylinder closed like this, you get bigger pressure and more of a push from the master cylinder when you go to bleed them. And the quick grip fits really well on here.
I just heard back from my dad. Before I got to Warsaw to work on the Sprite with my dad, he did rebuild both the brake master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder. Although in the text message I just got, he said he wasn't very confident about how it went. That was encouraging, but testing it on the bench, I've put it back in and I've let it a bit up here at the master cylinder. Now I can get a little bit of pressure, so I've hooked the pedal back up, and now I'm going to try to bleed it some more, try to get more air out. So I've taken off the slave cylinder again. I'm now getting some movement out of it. It's kind of at the end of its range right now. But in this position, I've been able to get a lot of air out of it. With it on the car, I was not able to. The advantage of this is I can sit in the car, I can pump with my foot and bend over kind of in a U shape. It helps to have some padding here on the transmission tunnel, and I can reach down there and bleed the clutch while I have the foot pedal pushed in. So with the master cylinder bench tested and this pulling a lot of air out, and I'm finally getting movement, I'm thinking I won't have to buy a new master cylinder, which is a good thing. The original looking ones are 150 euros or pounds or something like that. The aftermarket ones that don't look original are 50. And I didn't want to go either way. So hopefully this works. Now that I finally got the clutch working, I've been thinking, what was it that took so long? What problems did I have? I wanted to know, A, so I can do it better next time, and B, so it could save you some time if you're running into the same problems. Well, I think the thing that threw me off the most was that I had the back wheels jacked up and the front ones down, which is a common position for installing the engine.
I just had it up because to test the clutch, to let the back wheel spin. What happened when I did that was that the fluid level in the clutch reservoir was tilted, so it wasn't using the full capacity of the tank, and I would get a couple bleeds on it, getting some air out, and then the reservoir would drop down to the point where it would just suck in more air. So it put me into this cycle of getting too much air into the system. So it was entirely my fault. I should have had the car level, but it just wasn't something I thought of at the moment. Normally, yeah, you level the car and do it. Anyway, my mistake. I won't do it again next time because I'll have learned something, and that's the point of all this.
This is the cover plate off that goes above the connections of the master cylinders to the pedals. I'm not going to sandblast and paint it because it's easy to access. I take it off later. But I do want to make a quick gasket for it. So I'm just using this foamy stuff, and just going to do it really quick. So that left a nice line. Cut a little bit short of it on it. And over here, I can mark the holes. Take my hole punch. Probably not entirely necessary to put punch holes in these, but why not? There now, that'll seal up a lot better than it was before. With the clutch working, it's time to get the wheels back on correctly. Got the new special bolt. Ooh, new and shiny, with new castellated nuts to go on them, and even new cotter pins. So, start by taking the wheel off. Next, we can put the spring in. So we're going to start with 2 long bolts and put them on the diagonals. Then the spring goes up, this goes on. Alright, now let's start tightening it up. We're under the car, towards the back. This is the rear differential. You notice something funny about it? It's a little bit oily. The seal here has been leaking, and judging from the crud that's around, it's been leaking for a while. So today my plan is to pull off the drive shaft, pull out the seal, and put a new one in. this off, I was able to get this, this giant nut and lock washer off. And now I need to pull this off. That's the hard bit. It's dripping already, you can see it. That wasn't easy, but I got it out. Oh, it's hard as a rock. Luckily, it appears to be the same size as the one we got. Let's put it in there before all the oil comes out. Next, we're just gonna put it back together. Big washer. Great big old nut. To attach the differential, I'm going to use the same bolts, but I got new nylocks to go on them, so they'll be fresh and tight and hold it all together.
Well, it's been a very strange and productive week coming back to the shop after not being here for so long. I was very glad to get back. I made much more progress than I thought I ever would. But then at the same time, there were certain projects that took much longer than I expected. The Sprite's not completely back together. I have a few more things I want to do before I put it away and until next summer. One of the things that surprises me about the Sprite is the mechanical condition. It's in much worse shape than I thought it would be. I guess I had a nostalgia for it, and I remember putting all this work into it, so I thought it would be in better condition. Well, that's it for now. Next week, we're going to have a special guest come in. We're going to do some more work, mostly on the lights and getting those put back together. Tune in next week for that.
If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want YouTube to tell you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Thanks for watching, and your support is very much appreciated.